And we are live right now. This is Thomas, together with a whole bunch of people. I'm very glad to see so many participants here tonight. And this is the Americas Scrum that is held usually at 1800 hours UTC. But tonight we're going to devote a big chunk of this meeting to discussions about agileventures.org and the project codenamed Website 1. And well, we called this meeting earlier this week, me and Yaro and some other people. And on the agenda today, well, I was thinking that we could have, I would like to discuss a couple of things. I would like us to have a broad discussion about where do we want this project to go from now, what features we should focus on, perhaps not on a detailed level, but rather on a higher strategic level, and should we go for more social functionality? Bringing people together. We were discussing this pair programming schedule business when we once started this project, and so on. So that's one thing, one big topic. I think we should try to cover as much as possible. But also, I would like to talk about the way we do things in this project, the project workflow. I know that Yaro has been giving that a lot of thought and discussing that with a lot of people, and we would like to hear his inputs and some of your thoughts on, are we working as efficiently as we can? I mean, taking into consideration that this is a part-time project for many of us, of course, and it's an open source hobby kind of thing. But still, our goal has always been to be as professional and as efficient as possible in this project. So can we take that up a notch and be even better than we have been up until now? That would be a good thing, I think. So project workflow and how things are done, and strategy conversation about Website 1. That's what I bring to the table. Guys, any inputs on that, or do you have anything else you want to talk about? Don't give me the silent treatment now, guys, please.
On the topic of project workflow, I would like to discuss about pivotal tracker roles, maybe like finishing, accepting of chores and all that. That would be one thing I would like to discuss. Like who finishes chores or bugs or features, and who delivers and accepts and all that.
Okay, tracker roles.
Should be done.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I'd like to hear a couple of inputs from some of the new members about our current project workflow and how things are done. Because obviously I'm doing what fits my own schedule best. But I'd like to hear what you guys think about the pull request flow, the pivotal tracker flow, the way we accept stories. Is it clear enough for you guys?
Yeah.
I'd love to give you some feedback on that as a sort of a novice in that area. I'd also like to cover some things I've noticed with the documentation, which might help new members come in or actually stay in. And I was also wondering about retrospectives and things like that, but I won't go into it all right now. But yeah.
Cool. All right. So when you say retrospectives, you're referring to some of the Scrum methods that we adopted the whole methodology of Scrum to our own workflow, and we kind of got rid of a lot of steps, good or bad. But I mean, we should have Pavel. I know you're a little bit of an expert on that. According to Scrum, that we should have a retrospective meeting and a planning ahead meeting and stuff like that. Could you freshen my memory up on the terminology, because I
yes, we should have sprint planning, sprint review, and sprint retrospective meetings every sprint. Yeah. We had it when our activities was very strong, but for now it is not that much, so there is no point in doing that. But if we want to improve our activities and improve our velocity, we definitely should make these meetings.
Yeah, yeah, because I think that sprint retrospectives could be a good thing to re-implement, because I mean, you know, so we can bring up a lot of issues like the workflow issues, you know.
Well, there were sort of two aspects of it I was sort of thinking of. One was if we, the pair programming is sort of looking forward and we're sort of trying to solve problems and fix things, we don't actually use our time to actually look back and see where we've gone. So do we all get a sense of progress? That's another reason maybe for your recent idea is to have a dashboard to show a number of members, throughput of workflow and stuff like that, to give us that sense of progress.
Yes.
Is there a live stream link, Thomas? Because I think Nikita can't join with the videos.
See, I'm a little rusty here, so how do we find live stream links?
Good question. I don't think
I think like there is at the bottom, like bottom right corner, there will be, I don't remember the icon, but there will be something which if you click on, you will get the list of links.
Video embed, YouTube page.
Yeah, YouTube page.
Okay, so we just go like this. We go like.
It should be on Agile Ventures website, though.
Huh?
It should be on Agile Ventures website. If you have started from events, but I guess you didn't. Never mind.
Well, I started from Scrum. You know, I started the Scrum meeting.
Oh, then it should be there. Right. Okay.
All right. Yeah, I think that's, well, anyway, I just posted the link, and I hope he finds it. Live streaming link, yeah, okay. So thanks for the clarification there, Brian. Anyway, yeah, okay. So one thing, so Christian, what you're saying is that would you like us to have sprint retrospectives, or Pavel, if you could just give us a quick overview, what's the usual agenda on a sprint retrospective?
On a sprint retrospective, we actually had that meeting. You describe every team member describe what he or she thinks was good in the sprint, what was bad in the sprint, and and discuss an ideas, and after that discuss an actions that should be done in the next sprint. So every sprint we can be better than in previous one. That's the whole idea.
Okay.
Just discuss
like
what we
reflecting on the past sprint's work.
Yes. But in this case, we cannot implement just retrospective without making sprint in 2 weeks, for example, and plan them, because in this case we just don't know what the object we should discuss. We should discuss sprint in, for example, 2 weeks. So we need to implement then sprint planning and demonstration meeting. We had demonstration meeting, but only on some scrums when Sam accepted the stories. It is better to have a special meeting for that case. So.
Okay, well, let's not just jump in ahead of us here. The sprint planning, I remember we had a discussion about sprint plannings, and we kind of rolled them, you know, I mean, we have planning as we go, because we do vote on stories continuously during scrums, and we prioritize by moving, you know, things from the backlog into the from the icebox to backlog.
Yes, but it's not planning. It is called grooming sessions. When we estimate stories, it's just a grooming session, and when we prioritize this, it's just a grooming. Sprint planning is when developers developers choose the stories to sprint. We discuss what can be done according to their velocity, and they choose the stories to sprint. This is sprint planning.
Okay, I understand, but we do that continuously usually that's what we used to do. I don't know, we did that in Scrum meetings.
Yes, but we should have sprint, for example, for 2 weeks and discuss what tasks should be done in 2 weeks. We shouldn't replan them during the sprint. That's the whole idea.
Okay. All right. I personally, it's a little bit. I understand you, Pavel. It's a little bit against my own nature, because even if we're only talking about 2-week sprints, it feels like, if we have one meeting and we set, this is what we're gonna do, and then that plan is kind of locked in for 2 weeks and we can't do any changes. We're not flexible, I think, and I don't think it's the most optimal way to work. But it's only my feeling. If the dev team would prefer that way of working, that we actually just we set something, a plan, and we lock it for the entire sprint with no possibility to change that.
No, that's not really what I'm suggesting, Thomas, because it may be fine that we've got a maybe looser definition of a sprint. In fact, I've never really known when a sprint started and has finished. So that's how loose it's probably been, which has been fine. But occasionally, maybe this is one good meeting as an example of, we look back and see what we've done, and maybe improve.
I'm totally up for that. I'm a great fan of your proposal to have a retrospective meeting. I think it's great. That's one thing. Just one word about sprint start and finish. We used to have good. I knew when a sprint was about to finish. We had 2-week sprints, and I was always keen on delivering as many stories as possible. We knew when it started and when we finished, and we also always tried. We weren't always successful, but we always tried to finish off with a client meeting where Sam would be able to accept or reject. And actually, sometimes I try to have that client meeting a few days before the end of the sprint, so that we could have time to fix some rejected stories if there were any. So and we had quite a nice velocity for a long time. We were. I don't know, Brian and Pavel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we had like 17 or 20 points sometimes, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was.
Yeah.
Good old days.
Yeah, that was So and that's why I think our method of continuously adopting or what stories to work on and where we want to focus our resources. I think that's a working model for us, because we are a loosely put together dev team. Some guys only devote a few hours a week. Some other, are in the tens of hours a week of programming time, right? So I wouldn't go for very rigorous planning because it's tough in a project like this. But I would definitely support, having more structured retrospective meetings, and taking feedback from developers on what is working and what's not.
Brian, say your opinion, because you're now experienced in Scrums as a developer.
As for sprint planning, I think because most of the big stakeholders are always present during our scrums, there's not much need for sprint planning. So I think that's useful when you have people working offsite. They're not with you all the time. It's good to come together once in a while and plan and prioritize what stories you want to work on. But now that we have, Thomas is back, he can be around during the afternoon scrums. We should be able to have someone around that can prioritize things on the go whenever. So that's my opinion.
But how about the retrospective?
Yeah, definitely. I'm all for it. It's good to have. I'd like to reintroduce the retrospectives again, but as I mentioned before, I just didn't have the convenience to carry those out. So yeah, I can't carry out the retrospectives unless you have them later in the day. But usually there's not many people around.
Guys, may I suggest, we sort of move more from our objectives. Why are we talking about retrospective? Do we have a specific objective why we want to have it?
Well, I think it would allow us to sort of give feedback to the group and for us to evolve the process going forward. I could see, for example, from you, Garo, you were coming up with suggestions about documentation and roles and things like that, and there were discussions on Slack about that, and I felt we didn't really get a chance to all comment on that together and put in our feedback. So
Right, but
I could have done that. Sorry, carry on.
So yeah. Well, I just want to say, well, okay, just to clarify. So the main objective is to get feedback, and as a way of getting feedback, you're suggesting we have retrospective meetings in order to get feedbacks.
Well,
I think.
can I just add something? The main objective, Yaro, I think, is to be as effective as possible in order to move this project forward. And one of the things is that the way I understand, Christian, and correct me if I'm wrong here, that in order to be better at what we do, we want to revisit what we've done and see, can we do it better in the next iteration, right? And if somebody is not happy with the method, or we are evaluating something new, some new way of doing things, I think it's a retrospective meeting is a good place to vent and talk about certain things. So I'm up for it.
Yeah, that's not the only way we can get feedback. I mean, I don't think he's suggesting that retrospectives would be the only way we get feedback, but it's good to have a time where all the developers can come together and, in one place at one time and discuss the issues that they had in the last sprint, rather than, all over the place in the middle of pull requests and documentations here or there,
Absolutely. I also understand that we have the forums, we have Slack, we have various places where we can discuss. But again, coming together and venting and and being creative, I think in a meeting it's easier to come up with new ideas or express your thoughts than only by writing and typing text.
Yeah, the sort of things we use the scrums for is, what are we doing, what blocks have we got, what are we going to do this afternoon type stuff. That's looking forward. We obviously, if there's a big block or there's a big problem, that would be brought up there and then. There's no need to sort of delay that. But if we're always looking forward, every 7th scrum or something like that, it would be nice not to clog up those scrum meetings and make them slow. Just have an opportunity like this to chew the crud a bit.
All right. Could we agree? I propose that we agree upon having a retrospective meeting every fortnight, every 2 weeks. Is that possible?
I mean, one question is like, do we really have a definitive sprint? Like, I mean, can we set a goal that like these stories can be completed in this few like in a fortnight or so, or we just have
the short answer to your question is that we used to have that, and we don't have it right now. I'm not quite sure where we are, in time-wise in a sprint. But I spoke to Brian about this before, and our goal is to reintroduce that and have a good planning on every action and use sprints again. So yeah, and 2 weeks is I think we used to have two-week sprints before, and I think we can go back to that unless you guys have a better suggestion.
I think 2 weeks would be a good idea. That's what we have on Pivotal Tracker at the moment, I guess.
Yeah. Your audio is awfully low right now, Sampriti.
Who's going to host the retrospectives?
Well, it's
What time do you usually want to have it? I mean, preferably it'll be around this time, then I can make it.
yeah.
Otherwise, anytime earlier, it'll be much more difficult for me to attend.
For me, that's good time. I see.
For me too, actually, yeah. So I think Brian and or myself or anybody. I mean, this is we can start out. It's like being a Scrum Master. Anybody can host them basically in the developer teams. Anybody that feels that he's up for it.
Yeah, it's not that hard if you know the structure. There are 2 or 3 types of it. We can choose whatever we want and do it. It's very easy.
Yeah.
And there is templates for it. So no problem.
Pavel, what about? I mean, for example, if you're not participating in the development itself, can you hold the retrospective meeting?
Well, I can hold. I don't see the problem here, but any developer actually can. In my teams that I work as Scrum Master, most of them I hold, but I know that sometimes developers hold them, and that's not a problem at all. It may be even better than developers. Yeah, it's just we need to get used to template of it, and that's it. No problem. I can carry it out if Brian or Thomas, for example, not here, or they want me to do it. No problem.
Okay.
Okay. Well, the main reason I'm asking because we have many scrums. So if one of the scrums is not as good as another one, that's not much of a problem. Retrospective is an important meeting, and ideally it should be done quickly, concisely, and very effectively. Well, as effective as possible.
Absolutely. Let's grow into that. Let's have that as an objective, and it's a learning experience for everybody, I guess. So, is this our first decision? Retrospective meetings every fortnight, right? Could I get a yay or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll go for that.
Yep.
Okay. Could we also I would suggest that we have I would like to return to the discussion about the sprint planning, and I would like to have them continuous anyway, but I would like to propose that we have like Wednesday at 1800 hours UTC as a meeting where we devote more time into discussing about stories and voting about stories and stuff like that than perhaps another other Scrum meetings. Or perhaps we could designate two meetings a week, and that would help me and potentially also Brian and other stakeholders in this project to be there for the voting and for discussions about stories and features and stuff like that. Is that a sensible thing?
Every Wednesday, right?
For instance, I just said Wednesday, on top of my head. Wednesday is good for me, but I don't know.
I guess one thing we could do is since what we do in retrospective is we just go through the previous sprint. We could maybe have both the Scrum planning and retrospective in one meeting, where we see see through our previous sprint and then we plan our next sprint as well.
It will be very long time. You cannot yeah, because retrospective usually takes more than 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, I think. And planning it's maybe even more, but not less than 1 hour. So it's
and I would like to keep them rolling, twice a week, for instance, so because I don't want to feel that we are locking into certain things. I mean, 2 week period is still a long time, So how about Wednesdays and one day like Saturdays or Sundays for discussions about new features and stuff like that and voting?
So when did we decide to have the retrospective? Which day?
Yeah, well, it's every second week. So the sprint is ending on a Monday, usually, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess we could have that on, I don't know, Tuesday or Thursday or something.
So the sprint ends on Monday when we decide. Like we don't need to have sprint planning, but anyway we need to have a meeting when we decide. And you said that it's on Wednesday. It's better to decide what we take in the sprint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Wednesday. So retrospective should be 1 day prior to that, so it's Tuesday then.
Why does the retrospective have to be prior to the planning?
Because retrospective based on the previous sprint, and we need to plan actions for what we should do on the next day on sprint planning. We can implement retrospective results on the sprint planning meeting. That's why it should be before.
Yeah, usually out of a retrospective you get the retrospective actions, which will feed into your planning.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. You guys are the experts, you know. So yeah. So Tuesday at 1800 UTC, right? We have a retrospective meeting every other week, right? And then we have a planning meeting and voting on stories and stuff like every week on Wednesdays.
I think like the day after the retrospective, I guess.
Yeah, those weeks where we have a retrospective, but that meeting is not every week.
Okay. Sounds okay to me.
Okay. So continuous planning on Wednesdays, is that enough, or should we be able, because as the way we work before this, you know, before the summer and also during the summer, we vote on stories on quite often, right? And people are grabbing stories as they are, you know, moved to the backlog and voted on, then they are up for grabs for developers.
If you want specific meeting for voting of stories, then one meeting in a week not enough. It should be at least 2. If you can say that we can vote on any Scrum we want to, then it's a different thing. But it's better to have specific meetings, two days in a week, I think.
Yeah, because I know that we used to vote on almost every Scrum before, but I don't think it's a good thing. So I would like to have these continuous planning meetings twice a week. I think it's a good idea. So, and that's what I mean with those Wednesday meetings and 1 day and weekend, like Saturday. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I guess all of them will be at 1800 UTC then.
Yeah. And so can we agree that apart from Wednesdays and Saturdays, we do not vote on website 1 stories, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense.
Okay, cool. All right. Yaro, you had some other points on your document about workflow. You had some suggestions. You want to talk us through that?
Yeah, I was kind of preparing for this meeting and thinking about it. But you know, to be honest, most of those suggestions were based on the way things were while you were away. You know, the main reasons for that because you weren't here to make decisions. Brian was really busy, and Sam always had something on his mind. So you know, the main suggestion in the flow was, you know, I was concerned that I was thinking that things should get to develop branch easier, mainly because Brian was really busy, and I was suggesting that maybe other members, as well as taking part in code review, they would also take part in merging that stuff into develop. I'm not so sure that we need those changes now, since you're here, and from my point of view,
I'm so glad to hear that, Yaro. You're just boosting my ego extremely. Thank you very much for those kind words. But I'm not a magician here, so but
yeah. Well, I just wanted to say, from my point of view, I would like to wait a little bit and see how it goes.
All right.
And then, because at the moment I don't really feel, I still like those changes, but I don't really feel they're really necessary at this exact point.
Okay.
One suggestion from me at this point is when we have a pull request submitted, there are mainly two issues that we have with that pull request. One is code, and the other one is UI. I think code is quite easy to find the agreement on, because we have code styles and best practices and things like that. And UI is also a little bit subjective. Some people like green, some people like red. So I was suggesting maybe things should go to develop easier. We shouldn't pay too much attention to UI, but pay more attention to UI when it goes to staging.
I have a suggestion about that, actually. I think that stories, that some of these stories that involve both UI and updates to the model or introducing new models, I think they should start to be separated into two stories. One to introduce the model, one to introduce the UI, because it makes it a lot harder for me to accept something if I have two issues to work with.
We could try, but it sounds pretty complicated. I mean, not too complicated, but a little bit difficult maybe.
Why would it be difficult? I think if you have a pull request that's introducing a new model and then creating a page for it, I think you should just introduce the model in one pull request. That way it's easier for me to look at, it's easier for me to review, and then you can, after that, you can build a UI on top of that once it's merged. Then it'll be a lot easier for me to, merge things in and to focus on just, one part.
I understand the idea. I understand the idea. Just I don't see a clear way of doing it. But yeah, I'm happy to try. See how that goes.
How does that go? Just a question to Brian. How does that kind of go with the flow of BDD, behavior-driven development? Sometimes we start with a lot of interface issues.
Yeah, you can. What I'm suggesting is maybe just build the most basic interface on top of that, rather than including tons of CSS. Because lately I've seen lots of pull requests with massive CSS files in addition to very complicated layouts and also models introduced. So I prefer you separate that complex layout from the pull request.
Okay.
You could just make a plain text page.
Just a list of stuff rather than a fancy index page. Yeah. That'll be good, and then we can focus on the UI later on.
Yeah, I got it. I gotcha. And just one thing I noticed recently together with the Scrum page, previous Scrums. First of all, we should all agree upon some styling issues that we use on the site, like colors and some language and some headings, some basic stuff. Like headings should look like in a certain way and blah blah blah. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that Marcelo and Marion introduced this displaying of videos in a model, a pop-up, right? And we don't have that on projects, videos, or personal, when we access a user's profile page and want to watch the videos that he has uploaded. We don't use the same mechanism of displaying the videos. So we should also have some sort of a standard. What is, in this case, what's the best way to display videos? Another issue is another small issue, but the revisions, for instance, on documents or articles, they're expandable, right? But on projects, they are not, right? So, and that's kind of confusing for the it's bad UX, bad user experience. We should have some standards. We should agree upon certain things. Do you agree, guys?
Yeah, agree.
Like a style book.
Yeah, kind of. So what I'm trying to say is, if you want to introduce complex UI with a lot of CSS and a lot of stuff, that is something that needs to be discussed. As Brian is suggesting, that should be a story in itself. It's kind of hard to test for. It's hard to test for deviation from standards, right? and in CSS the way things are looking. So you know, UX design should definitely be done in pairs, you know, pair program with people that has been involved in the project for a long time and know the UX, and also just common sense. Look at the way things have been done before and try to do them similarly. You know, so they don't deviate too much from the look and feel of the site. So I'm up for splitting up this, you know, complex stories into logic and basic UI, and then adding you know, user interface as a separate feature, separate story with separate points.
I agree absolutely, and in my style would be to suggest having a basic guide of what should be done and what shouldn't be done. Although I've never had a, you know, like a style book. I know that's what people have in printing, publishing sort of industry. They have a style book. I'm not quite sure how that's done for the web, but I'm sure there is a way.
Yeah, we also would have style guides, or style books, whatever. But well, the problem is I don't think any of us is qualified to create that style book. You see what I mean?
Well, we can base it on what we have at the moment. You know, at least we don't deviate much from,
Yeah,
you know, what we
I
have
think
now.
I'm a little allergic to too many guides and too many documents, you know. But I would say use common sense. Don't deviate too much from what's on the site, you know. And if unsure, produce a lo-fi like you did, for instance, Yaro, you know, and just publish it and ask people to leave feedback about it. So I think we can come a long way with just common sense and lo-fis and, you know, collaborating with each other, so we avoid problems like that in the future. But you know, if a style guide is what we need, then let's. But I wouldn't spend resources on that right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Brian,
Yep, I agree.
any other inputs on that, guys?
Yeah, I think if we do make a big change or any sort of change to the UI, put it up on a Heroku demo site so everyone can just glance at it and see if it sort of fits in well.
Okay, but can we agree upon Brian's on Brian's suggestion to split up stories, and when we talk about stories and vote on them, so we split them up into logical, you know, introducing new models, and you know, complex UI.
Yeah, stories.
I mean,
stories
like,
don't have to be one pull request. It can have, it can be split into smaller chores and chunks. So if you feel that a pull request is getting too large, try and split it up. Makes it easier for us to, you know, look at it and then accept it as it is.
But
I think somebody else wanted to jump in. Was cut off.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, how would you split that up? I mean, you suggested change the model and then put the UI on.
Yeah.
But suppose I got the model wrong, then I'm going to have to do another migration for you.
Exactly. So I think what you should focus on is the model first, and then just build a very basic UI on top of that. Just don't worry about how it's going to look like. Just display the information you want to show, and then in another pull request you can style it after we've accepted the model. Because if you put them together, once we say, you know, there's something wrong with the model, you have to change this, you're going to have to change your UI as well.
Yeah, okay. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think some of the biggest pull requests are the common thing they have is always introducing a new model and a complex UI on top of that, which takes a very long time to look at, review, and just make sure it's all right.
Yeah.
All right. If we can agree on that, another question, and that's getting back a little bit to Yaro's comments about developer server. Can we, you know, when we started this project, we had a development server and a production server, and we introduced the staging server because the client asked us for it. But to be honest, guys, just explain to me, like I was a 5-year-old, what are we using the staging server for?
Well, that's easy to explain. We don't use it for anything.
Okay, that's one explanation.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I'm not sure why Sam asked us to use the 3-tier server architecture, and then he only wants to look at things in production, which kind of goes against it, because what a staging server is supposed to be is for Sam to look at and use that as, where he accepts stories.
So either, just
something
to
we
make
need to
sense.
discuss with Sam.
Yeah, just to make sense of everything, I think that we should either accept that we push stuff up to the staging server and show them to the client on staging, and after they are being accepted, that's when we deploy them to production. That's a logical way to do this, right?
Yep.
Okay.
I agree.
Or we stick to what Sam wants, and that means having a look on the production server, and then we can loosen up the development server, as Yaro suggests, that it could make it easier. So, but then we need to be prepared that we need to sometimes roll back certain things, if we don't want them, or they are not fully. That would kind of, make it easier for people to deploy, and also we wouldn't have to have so many demo sites around the place. You know what I mean? We could push stuff out. So these are the two directions that we could go in, I guess. Let's talk about that. Well, what should we choose?
I agree with what you're saying, Thomas. I like the idea. So on top of what I'm suggesting, splitting up the stories into smaller pull requests, we can, when it's smaller, we can easily merge that in, and we can have a look at it on develop. And then what we can use staging for is just a little stable snapshot that, when we're introducing pull requests that change a lot of things, we can push stuff to staging, and then we can keep it there. And that's something that's ready for the client to look at when he's available, and something we can push to production, and then we can continuously push things to develop without worrying about, everything needs to be okay before it goes straight to production.
Yeah. All right, Yaro, what do you think about that?
I support that strongly. We had three. Just myself, I remember 3 times when we had to deal with the production falling down for some reasons, like for the GOIP service. I think having a strict staging server would help that, and having a looser develop server is also a good idea, I think.
Yeah, good. So, okay. I'm trying to document what we were agreeing upon here. So what have we? Okay, so loosen up. Dev server. Okay, dev server, and acceptance on staging. Is that what we're saying now? That
we'll try and get Sam to do that.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question about that? So if somebody's going to make a hot fix in production, you're going to pull down staging, make the fix, push that up to staging, and then someone else is going to pull that change back down to development. How does that work?
I know that we sometimes we've done hot fixes directly to production, unfortunately, but we've also gone through the all 3-tier thing as well, haven't we?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, perhaps we should just agree upon a hotfix strategy, because it's me, you, and Sam, Ryan, right, that can do hotfixes. We are the only ones with access to the servers.
Oh, okay. So I don't need to worry about it, but it might be worth just documenting.
Yeah. I know that I took some heat for fix to production, and a week after Sam did the same thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not something we encourage hotfixes.
Yeah.
Preferably it goes through the entire pipeline, because once you do a hotfix, we need to sync that up with the rest of the service. So it's not ideal.
It was a very basic logical error we once. I mean, the deletion. You know, if you delete an account, then everything broke down because the documents or projects created by that user were causing an exception, right?
Yeah, I remember that
And
one.
I don't think we've still fixed that, or have we?
No.
We have fixed that. Like we've just removed the deletion functionality for the user.
Yep.
So user cannot delete it himself.
Okay, that's a nice way to fix that. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, I remember, Thomas, how frustrated you were when you couldn't delete your EDX account.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
So,
the
and
simple
also,
way.
yeah, we need to allow people. I was just about to say that, but I thought that fuck it. But we need to allow people to delete their accounts. It's integrity infringement. I mean, come on, for fuck's sake. All right, moving on. Don't get me started on this one. I'm still upset with edX. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, so I need to take 5 minutes because I need to get something to drink. The next topic would be, let's see, new members. Yeah, how, and this is a question to our new members, so you also get a piece of the action here. If we could, go around and say what has been easy and what has been hard for you in terms of getting into the flow and starting working on the project and stuff like that. If we just could hear a few minutes from each one of you that feel are new into this group.
Hello?
Yes, Nikita. Or I'm sorry, it wasn't Nikita. It was Craig. Okay.
I've found it very, very easy. I mean, it's complicated, but just the community's been so helpful at posting a message on Slack. Someone's pointed me to the right direction or pulled me into a hangout and walked me through stuff. So while it's a complicated proposition to get on board and sort of come up to speed with things, the community's been so helpful. I've not really had a problem at all.
What would you like us to do better, if there's anything?
I don't know. I mean, documentation can always be improved, but sometimes it's just as simple as being told documentation's there. So, and I've always been pointed in the right direction, or, as I say, been pulled into a hangout. Yaro's helped me do rebases on Gate and stuff. I've not had a single problem today that's not been resolved fairly quickly, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I would second that for the most part. I think my initial impression, just from the first day or two, was that kind of getting dropped into a Scrum as an introduction to the project is a bit overwhelming, because you have a bunch of people talking about things that you've never heard of before. So if there was any, and I guess the other thing that kind of feeds into it is that if you go to, for example, the description of the website one project on Agile Ventures, it's minimal. There's a couple of sentences and nothing else. So I would say that if there was just a bit more introduction, bold description of the project, and maybe some kind of just a slightly easier starting curve up front, that would be much easier for me, I think.
Nick, could you sort of describe shortly how do you see that an easier curve? How could that happen?
Well, I've seen mention on Slack of this Agile Ventures 101, or was that some kind of an actual introductory?
102.
102, yeah. That was some kind of an introductory course, in effect?
For teacher assistants.
Okay, that was something else then.
Although it was a great course. I mean, it was a great introduction to pair programming, GitHub Flow, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think we would, to answer Yaro's question then, so for example, I would think that a bit more effort into the actual project pages, I think would go a long way. Where if you go to a project page, the description is just a bit more fleshed out. I'm looking at the website 1 project right now, and it's literally a sentence. The description for it. And documents, it is not clear, what document would be, let's say, good introductory material, and what documents are fairly, further down. They're not of interest to new people. They're more of interest to, ongoing development, etc. The activity list, it's a link to a bunch of pivotal stories. Not the most clear indication of what exactly is happening on the project. And the other thing, I suppose, if I don't know, if there was some kind of, let's say, a fairly standard first hangout that we could have, like there's a fairly certain structure to a hangout where a more experienced member walks a new one through the process. I think that would be helpful.
When you say hangout, you mean pair programming session?
Yes,
or?
yes,
Okay.
pair programming.
All right.
What about, would you think like a screencast would be useful?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I remember my very first pairing session was, Yarrow, it was with you and with Sempriti, and I remember that it was extremely helpful that Sempriti and I went through the entire, through all the controllers in the app, and he talked me through basically everything that was happening there. So that kind of thing, if it's available to everybody as the first introduction, it would be great.
So what I'm hearing basically is you mentioned community support before I took off to get my Coca-Cola here, refreshment, and you end up in the same manner basically, because you're mentioning the first PP session that you had with Sapriti, and his support gave you a good, start a good experience as a in your first steps into this project. So basically, all the documents and everything put aside, it's the contact with other project members that gave you the most value. Am I understanding you correct?
Definitely. But I think what Yarrow's suggestion was screencast, for example, that might be useful. But I don't know if everybody who comes into the project for the first time gets an introduction that is as useful as what I got.
All right. So let's
sorry.
hear from other members also.
Well, I can only echo what Craig and Nick have brought up about the community helping out. It's been a good experience all around. I think, yes, there's probably some areas of the documentation, I would agree with you, Nick, that maybe it could be a good idea us to work together on that to try and come up with things now, because they're fresh in our mind. We've just gone through it once, and we can come back with ideas, because I think it's more than just detail in some of the documents, but it could be restructured slightly. There's stuff at the Agile Ventures level which describes all the projects, but again, that's a little bit inconsistent and conflicts with what's written at the project level. But I don't think they're big things to tackle. I think it's just, they would just help smooth the process out a bit.
I think
An area which would be worth describing, but I think you've already started working on that, is what happens during the pull request stage, and just defining somewhere who presses the accept and the finish button and stuff. I'm still a little bit confused in that area. I think your ideas recently about the dashboard and trying to show progress, and which will help advertise Agile Ventures to the outside world as things are happening there, projects are moving forward, bugs are being fixed, features are being introduced. All that's a good stuff.
Okay, Christopher, you're also kind of new to this group, right? Or
I'm pretty new.
all right.
I did one sort of minor story. It was upgrading a part of our spec to the newer syntax. And I had a great introduction. I think it was Yarrow that helped me with that. But speaking to what would make the experience of a new member easier to sort of get rolling, I think like the homepage of the site does a pretty good job of explaining what the value proposition of Agile Ventures to somebody who first lands on the homepage. But then it doesn't become clear how to actually participate. If you click on a list of projects and you land on a project page, I'm looking at website project page right now. It's not clear. At least I found it wasn't clear what to do next. So there's kind of like a bit of a threshold that you have to cross, and as the first time user of the site, you have to do that work yourself. Figure out where to go. And I know there's a getting started tab, but it would be nice if there was more sort of pull on the project page to your next step. Yeah.
Okay. But just out of curiosity, did you attend the CS169 course, or how did you find us?
I did both. I've completed both.
Okay. And so what happens was, I mean, first time you logged into agileventures.org, was that by Sam's recommendation, or how did you?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And did you immediately understand that a good thing is to join a Scrum meeting, or?
I did, but I found that part of it difficult. So, for example, if you look at the website one project page, if that's the next step, I feel like it should be stated somewhere that you should join a Scrum.
Exactly.
Get there from this page, perhaps, because when you look at the events page, it's not clear which Scrum you should join to work on which project.
Yeah. Okay, that's what we addressed now with the retrospective meeting, continuous planning meeting. So we can post that info that Wednesdays and Saturdays are devoted, for website one, but also our other Scrum meetings, of course, will deal with website one issues as well. Just as regular Scrums. But I understand. Also, I think you and I, Brian, and I think Yarrow and I discussed this. I would like to have this, 1, 2, 3 getting started. Like, just sign up for the site, join a Scrum meeting, and we basically help you out. Because I think, as all of you guys up till now said, that the community support is the most important thing, and that's what actually separates us from other communities. I think is that this is built on interpersonal connections. We are all here to learn and all here to be friendly towards each other and help each other out. So my vision personally is that we create this application that gives us technology-based tools to be nice to each other and to learn together, right? But no technology will ever win over interpersonal skills and just a smile and a nice comment and just a helping hand. Does that make sense?
I agree completely, and actually, in light of that, would it be a good idea to have a showcase of the best Scrum videos, the best pairing sessions, etc., so that people see how it actually happens?
Yeah, absolutely. And also, as Yarrow suggested, and we spoke already about the screencast, or some of us either new members could give a quick testimony. Hey, I just showed up here and I didn't know what the fuck to do, and all of a sudden Yarrow came along and he helped me out, and that's a great thing. You know what I mean. And perhaps Sam or somebody else could explain the vision of Agile Ventures and kind of take people step by step. Just because, see, I remember I attended the CS 169.2 course without taking the first one. So I was struggling really hard with this course because I didn't know Ruby, and I was new to Rails and I just didn't quite understand everything. I passed the course, but I had to study real hard. And Sam just said, come on and join, the Agile Ventures, whatever. And I joined into a pair programming session, and I was like, these guys are so much better than me, and I'm just like a nobody here. And I was so nervous. And I remember once that we were dealing with a problem, and there was some discussion back and forth, and I just Googled an answer, and I found a Stack Overflow post about the issue we were discussing. But I felt that, hey, I can't tell them because it's not my solution. I just found it on Stack Overflow. So I kept quiet. I knew the answer to the problem, but it wasn't my answer. It was somebody else's answer. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden Sam says, hey, I just found the Stack Overflow post, because he did the same thing. He also Googled it, and it was actually the same posting that I found already, and he presented it like the most normal thing in the world, that, hey, on Stack Overflow somebody says this and that. And I was like, so hey, wait a second. So me as a newbie, I just had to Google for the right answer, and here I have this professor, and he's doing the same thing. I mean, so that kind of encouraged me that, hey, we can't know everything by ourselves. Forums like Stack Overflow and things like that are there to help us, and we are here. That's why we do pair programming. So if somebody gets stuck, then your partner can point you in, give you a push in the right direction or something. And that's what ping ponging is about. You leave the keyboard to somebody else to write new code and stuff. So I remember it was tough to start here, and being recorded live, doing mistakes and things. But I've learned that we all grow from making mistakes, and it's much easier to make mistakes together, and kind of laugh it off and just do the right thing later on. So that's why I think pair programming is the key to this community, and that's what we need to focus on a lot, and use this community support and stuff. So a screencast where we can show this off is much better than all the documents and all the text and all we can write. Like, if we can just get people into a good pair programming session, so they can see that it's not hard, it's funny, and it's a good learning experience, then they are kind of hooked. I'm hooked. I love this place. I love this community, and that's why I'm sticking around. And I love all of you, and you know who I'm talking about probably, but it is a great experience, and I think I wish more people to experience the same thing.
Ooh.
So Yarrow, if you want to write up a story about if you want to write up a story about a screencast, you can add that to the tracker. I think it's a great idea.
I will. I think we can. It's a way to go to learn how to make screencasts like Ryan Bates, for example. I think we can go in iterations, and I really like Nick's idea that we have like a cheat sheet for existing members, how to make an introductory pair programming session for a newcomer, and then every time we make a new session to a newcomer, just following this cheat sheet, just to make sure we don't miss nothing, and to make this session as useful as possible. Every time we make one, hopefully it will get better, and and we'll post that as as the introductory screencast. And hopefully after 10, 15, 20 new introductory sessions, we'll have a great screencast, which is a real one, which is a real session.
Yeah.
But my worry is that these screencasts could easily go out of date very quickly. and we have to maintain all that. What about instead of having scrums or pairing be the first step, we can have like an introductory session. So we encourage new members to, well, first they have to join Slack. Maybe they say, I'm new to this project, and I meet up with somebody, we can discuss something. How about something more like that? Just a welcoming.
Exactly. The introductory session.
Yeah.
All the intro stuff.
I think both of those could work, Brian. I think the issue of them being perfectly up to date is not super relevant because we're showcasing more the human talent rather than the code.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just a quick comment. Another thing that I think Yarrow mentioned to me a few days, or perhaps it was Brian. I don't recall now. We need to have stories in website one, but also in other projects that people can, newcomers can start working on in order to, get to know the code base. It doesn't really even matter if they're experienced or not, inexperienced coders, programmers. But you have to get to know the code base and get to know the project. So it's I think we need to create or have that in mind when we create new stories, new features that some stuff should be reserved for new members of the project.
I'm not sure you need such a thing. I mean, I think there's two things. I think we need to get people into scrums as quickly as possible, and just make them non-threatening. Because as soon as you join one and you realize it's not half as intimidating as you thought it was going to be, a lot of the pressure just suddenly disappears. And secondly, when I joined and we mentioned getting user stories out of Pivotal Tracker and I couldn't pick one, and then I just paired up with someone who already had a story, again, that took the pressure off me considerably. I didn't have to worry about picking a story or delivering it. I could just help someone talk me through their story, and that was a great introduction without having to deliver something straight away.
Cool.
But Thomas, to answer your question, there is an epic for refactoring the specs and updating them for RSpec 3. This is how I got started. This is what I recommended to Sly recently to start on that, and I thought that was a pretty good introduction myself.
That's good. If you like, see, because I was recently saying this to somebody that I think, but that's just a theory. But I think that new members would like to have stories where that are a little uncomplicated, and they can see the effort or the effect of their work being pushed out to production. Is something that can be seen. I mean, refactoring is a great thing, and if you enjoy that, it's all right. But it's never, it's nothing you can see. It's not tangible. You don't see that in production. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But I mean, we're all different as individuals. So yeah, I also think that as Craig was saying, getting into a scrum, taking the pressure off, seeing this is just normal people with flaws and everything, So yeah, just work together. I think that's the best thing. Sly, you're also fairly new to this community, right?
Yeah, sure. I'm here from about a week, actively participating in scrums and so on. And so far, I'm pretty much agreeing with the things that everybody already said. And I was thinking that the idea of screencast is a good one, because yeah, I don't mean some very detailed screencast about all the things that are happening in the project, but probably just a screencast to say hey, this is the process, and you have to have a per se Pivotal Tracker account, so we could add you in the team and start getting some stories, because the way I joined, I was not clear from I was not aware if I should already have an account and when should I be added in Pivotal Tracker and so on. And I had to bother Yaro with all of this stuff that he probably started repeating, although he was awesomely helpful, and thanks to Nikita and Yaro, I was able to jump in the project pretty quickly. But my point being was that it's not very easy for everyone to, as Craig said as well, it's not very easy for everyone to jump in a scrum and say, hey, say to everyone, hey guys, I'm new and I would like to be guided by someone, because I don't know, it's different kind of people that are joining the project. And yeah, I think the best step would be to probably think of some way to just comforting the people that they have enough information to join a scrum and say, hey, I'm new and I'd like to jump in.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that it's also a leadership thing. I know Sam is great with new people. Whenever somebody new is in a scrum, he always put that person in a. He gives that person a little more extra attention and let him speak, and then introduce himself and stuff like that. So this is a common sense thing. I think we need to be inclusive, of course. Just being friendly to each other, but ease that transition, because I mean. We wouldn't want to miss out on somebody that could be very a very useful resource for us and add a lot of new competence, new value to our group, just because he feels uncomfortable in a scrum. So, but having said that, programming in this group is not a lonely task. We encourage pair programming. This is what we are all about. So. Just being the lonely hacker, that only wants to deliver, thousands and thousands line of code. This is not a community for this kind of people. That at least what I think, and what we used to discuss with Sam before. So if somebody feels uncomfortable working with others, we need to make that. I mean, we need to kind of educate them a little bit, and then make that show them that it's not that hard. It's nothing scary to pair program, because the concept of pair programming is nothing. Let's not kid ourselves. There are a lot of people that are feeling a little uncomfortable with it. They don't feel it's a very productive way of software development. So you have to. In order to be a member of this community, you have to embrace pair programming as a concept.
Yeah, sure. I don't want to be misunderstood, though. I mean, I had a great time joining the project, and everybody have made this extremely easy for me to get started, and I've enjoyed my stories so far. I'm just saying that I wasn't really very comfortable asking people for things that I had concerns that have been written already somewhere, and everyone kind of hates repeating the same thing again and again, and just may say have a link and go read it, but. It didn't happen here, and that's why I like it so much. But although I'm this kind of person that if there is a getting started page, that everything is explained very well with links and so on, I would be glad to read it the whole at first, so I could be comfortable joining and knowing that I'm well prepared for the session.
Absolutely.
I think Sly raises a very good point there, and that's that there's a culture on the internet, this RTFM culture, that is so entrenched, it takes you by surprise when you actually come onto the Agile Ventures website and realize you're going to get some helpful feedback.
Yeah, that's very prevalent on Stack Overflow. Like
Guys, I just had an idea. For those of you who think that jumping into a Scrum or pairing session first thing off is kind of scary. Okay, I mean, all of us here know that it isn't, but the new people that will be coming in will still think it's kind of scary. Do you think if we have some basic task, an assignment written up on website one somewhere, that the best thing you can do is join the Scrum, join a pair program session, just post something on Slack, get somebody, just ask somebody for help, or an alternative way is you can do this assignment, and it could be a really short assignment. Remember, like on 169 course, like do this, submit a pull request, do this. Do you think that could be another way for some people, for an easier way to jump in?
For me, I would work on the first way, because I think it doesn't matter whether you have assignments or screencasts. You can have as many of those as you like in the world, but you still have that situation that you finish all those things and you've got to join your Scrum. And it doesn't matter how much preparation you take for it, there's this kind of fear. I can remember being a bit apprehensive myself about going into it, and it wasn't until I was actually in. And as Thomas said earlier, Sam was very good, and you're made to feel comfortable, and you ask a question, and then Yarrow posted a link to some documentation, and the whole process suddenly becomes so much simpler in about 30 seconds, rather than trawling through pages and pages on the site trying to make sense of what to do next.
Sure, but I mean, how do we tell the new people that?
I have another suggestion that I've just thought about. I don't know about the rest of the new guys or you that are here for more time, but me personally, I've joined Agile Ventures. Like I first registered in the site and then got into the Slack channel for the common channel and the website one. What I meant was that I think a good solution would be that we could have probably 2 or 3 people that could cover the different time zones that are okay. So they could spot a new user that came on Slack and just introduce him in a private message and say, hey, I'm here, and if you have some questions and would like to start working on something, just contact me and I will take care. I mean, that introducing person would know what to do. I mean, create a Pivotal Tracker account for him, think about or asking another Scrum for some story that would be appropriate for this person. I mean, not something very, very different from...
We had that in one of the 169 instances. I think Sam created this continuous Hangout kind of support thing that was on 24/7, if I'm not mistaken. And we could have something similar that could be a part of getting karma points.
Although, like,
do you think that's
later on in the course we noticed that, like, usually the hangouts remain empty even with a large number of students, and in Agile Ventures, like, there are so few members, it would probably be like the hangouts would be empty for most of the time.
I understand the implications. I was just about to say that perhaps later on when we have reached a more critical mass, but some sort of already now in this, with all we have almost 500 members now, we could have a few hours a day where we could have a manned, and hangout open with somebody, being standby, and if somebody new just want to come in, just come in, ask a few questions, as Slice suggesting, perhaps setting up with GitHub account and blah blah blah,
I've got some previous point, and part of the problem, I think, and probably Craig could say if I'm right, is that most of the people are not pretty much used to getting in Hangouts and are kind of not very. They are not feeling very comfortable with speaking via voice and video and so on. I think Slack, in its means of chat messenger, is much less, and I don't know how to say, much less
Intimidating?
obtrusive or intimidating. Yeah, it's much easier for a newcomer to just drop a few lines in a direct message to someone or something like this than entering a Hangout.
Okay.
I support the idea of having a support team. That some members, if they have enough time, they can sign up for that support team, and all the newcomers, they have a list of these people with a time zone, and they know who they can contact directly and deal with just one person who's like a mentor for the first couple of days, basically.
All right. So, a suggestion: how about us opening up a new channel on Slack called new member support?
I totally agree. I was about to suggest that, in fact.
Yeah,
and I beat you to it. What do you know?
That's only going to be useful if people are joined into Slack as soon as they join into Agile Ventures. I mean, you have to join a Scrum to get a Slack account, don't you?
Yes.
Couldn't we have a workaround on that?
Let's register a support channel everywhere, like Gtalk, Skype, Slack, whatever, so people can just write anywhere and get an answer.
I can't remember where I read this, but I had Slack maybe a week before I started joining Scrums, and I was like just hanging out in the channel to see what's happening and get a sense of the group. So I'm not sure, but I think there's a way to get a Slack account before joining.
I mean, if they email us on info@agileventures.org, couldn't we send out an invitation to Slack or something?
Yeah,
I was like experimenting with automating the Slack invites, and it was pretty easy. But in that case, we might have to deal with spam because we might have to verify the account, people who are joining.
Yeah.
I think we shouldn't automate it. What the problem is, it isn't clear that a good next step after joining Agile Ventures is to join the Slack channel. The problem is, I think, that the person always has to manually ask one of us to add them into the Slack channel.
I think that's we send often a welcome email to them. We can tell them,
Absolutely, that's what my next suggestion was, to update the welcome email.
I wonder if that information belongs on the project page for each project.
I think yes.
But that's on a higher level. I mean, this information should be made available to you as soon as you join Agile Ventures, and then if you join a project, then you should get an information that we also have a website one channel on the Slack. But joining Slack should be done as soon as possible, right?
I think that's another thing. It isn't clear that joining Slack is very important as part of the Agile Ventures process. That's what I'm getting from all the new members. So maybe we should add some more mention of Slack onto the site.
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. And modifying the welcoming email, right?
Yeah.
You want to write that up as a story?
Sure.
Yeah. So because that's important. Good.
So what about the support channel? Are we
definitely creating a support channel? I'm up. If we and also we have to set up. We need to unify kind of what we are saying to new members. So let's. I think you mentioned that cheat sheet, Yarrow. Let's keep it simple, but yes, do this, that, GitHub account, blah 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 account, blah blah blah. But also we are pair programming community. Just we have to express the core values, you know, and just make sure that they understand, you know what I mean. So we have to unify the communication, what we're saying to new members. So what I would suggest that we have senior members, you know, manning, you know, monitoring that support channel and answering questions. And I think of all of us in Agile Ventures, we have like at least 10 or whatever people that are, you know, senior enough to be the ones that can introduce new people, right? So definitely a cheat sheet with what we want to communicate, what steps a new member should you know, should take, and some sort of objectives. And one of the objectives is make them comfortable enough to join scrums and join pair programming sessions, right?
Okay, I want to suggest introducing a new story here, and it's quite important in my opinion. On top of adding, you know, members' testimonials and stuff, why don't we, as an introduction to, you know, projects or the site in general, why don't we come together and create a little like screencast, something like what you guys did before for the TA training course? Yeah. So, you know, all the senior members can come together, just introduce a bit of the site, what we do, and that we can have a video that's showcased on our site. What do you guys
Also,
think?
on this point, like, I mean, currently we are thinking of having, like, we already have many tutorials, like we have a tutorial for submitting pull requests, and then there's this tutorial or a written document for, like, getting started on the website. Why not, like, have a screencast for those things, and maybe we could just include all of them as a part of a getting started video instead of having a document? Because in my experience, I think that like screencasts and videos are more helpful rather than just a text document.
Oh yeah, definitely. So yeah, absolutely, the screencasts are way better than documents because it's much faster. It's easier to communicate with
Also,
words than
like
text.
we need to make these materials more accessible. Like when a new member joins in, like it's, I mean, I don't think documents have, like when a member joins in to Agile Ventures, it'll take some time before he can find out like where all the information is kept. So it needs to be made more accessible to the new users.
I completely agree.
I think the documentation as a whole, you know, what documents we've got, some bits we've got too many steps in. There's one document's got 10 steps, too far to go through, too much to go through. It could just be restructured. But my opinion's different to Nick's, which is I'd like all our opinions to go together in a pool and a couple of people just sift through them and sort them out. Does that make a good? Is that a good idea, do you think?
Once again,
that our suggestions. I don't want to lose suggestions. You know, I've just gone through this process once, so all my stumbling points with the documentation are fresh in my mind. I should write them down, and I think Nick can too. And we review the documents as a whole. You know, the whole process of how do new users. Where do new users go? What are they told when? What is their process of coming in on board? You know, through the Scrum. It's worth thinking about.
Absolutely.
I have a suggestion, guys. This is part of a bigger suggestion I wanted to talk about tonight. But you know, there's some ongoing tasks which are always there, like you know, like maintaining the documentation. I think it's a good idea to, you know, to get some people, you know, responsible for some kind of tasks. You know, at least, you know, taking a lead on that for some time. So we, for example, we ask people around. We find out who out of the members want to, you know, maintain the documentation, and he'll be responsible for collecting the feedback, for getting it all together, for presenting on scrums, for asking people's opinions, and for putting it down. And then as soon as he gets tired of that, you know, he can pass that job on to somebody else. But at least we have one person who is collecting all their opinions, all their ideas in one place and implements them. Because at the moment, everybody is trying to do everything, and I think, that's the point when some things just don't get done.
Or we lose them between the gaps. Some things get forgotten.
Exactly, yeah, and that's another point. And that's not only regarding the documentation, but some other things like, some roles. I'm really a fan of roles which can be taken by people for some time and then passed on to other people, which will, in my opinion, will provide a bigger involvement for those people in the project, because they're not just coding, they're actually responsible for something, and maybe they feel a little bit pressure. But it's also an experience. It's like a job you're carrying out. And the other roles I'm talking about is like, so documentation, code review, user interface, things like that. Screencasts. So we have appointed people who take lead on stories. So what do you guys think?
It goes a little bit. I understand what you mean, and that's why we use with. I think that's why we work with user stories, and that's why we work on Pivotal, because if we have a task, like for instance create documentation for certain whatever, and that is assigned to certain points, and you take ownership of that. And it's project based. There's a start and it's a finish, right? Because there are certain criteria that need to be fulfilled in order, to deliver the result. In the case of screencasts, like Brian just wrote out a story. I mean, when we process that from Icebox, we add some tasks. We're gonna vote on it. We do that as a group together, then somebody, perhaps you or whoever, will take lead on that and take ownership of that story. So I think, I think those roles that you are talking about, they are necessary, but in this way that we do this, in the agile way, I think it kind of, it is covered by the method, by the agile way to do the things.
I agree.
That's my opinion, But another thing is, just let me finish. Another thing is code review, and I know that you guys have done a tremendous, wonderful work with code review over the summer. For instance, we didn't do that much code review before. For me personally, quick comment on that. If we pair program a lot, the code review will be faster. It doesn't the need for code review would not be as big as it is today. But code review is the second best thing. I think we should stick to it. I think it's a great thing, but it also should be done by a lot of people. And this is something I want to encourage. Even new members. Don't be afraid to make comments about somebody else's code if you find if it's something you don't understand, or if you know another way to do it, a better way to write code. So I wouldn't assign a role for code review to anybody.
Assigning even roles
collaboratively.
Guys, may I just clarify a little bit?
Sure.
Regarding the stories which have start and finish, sure, we have an owner for that. He's taking the lead, he's responsible for the story. I mean the stories which are ongoing, which don't really have a start and finish, like maintaining documentation.
Well, I would like to pause you there, Yaro. Just you have to clarify for me what sort of documentation you're referring to.
For example, the documentation for new users. We know that the documentation for new users has to be created, maintained, and updated. For example, this is just an example. Okay. And it's an ongoing task. Yes, we can have a story for creating this particular document, but also we have an ongoing effort for for keeping it updated. And I think it would be a good idea to have a role which is taken by some people who have time and are happy to do it, who are looking after that.
Yeah.
For ongoing tasks. That is for ongoing tasks. Somebody who's taking the lead for ongoing tasks. And regarding the code review, I mean, surely everybody should. Well, that's exactly what I think. Everybody should participate in code review, but also there is, like, Brian has a very distinct role of making the final decision. Brian has a very distinct role making the final decision and merging the stuff in. That's a role that he has. That's an example of a role.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to say something about that. I mean, the only reason I am, having the final say right now is because I'm the only one who's really doing a lot of the thorough reviews. Well, of course, you've done a lot as well, Yarrow. So I'd like for there to be more people to doing the review as well, so that I can just go and see the comments. Okay, it looks good. All right, then I can just merge it in without any problems. But most of the time, it's empty, and I have to go through everything myself. So that's the only reason my role exists. Because
exactly, Brian. But
yeah.
you have taken that role on, and nobody else has. And if the pull review is there, everybody's kind of expecting, oh, where's Brian? When is he going to come in?
Yeah,
we know that you have that role.
I have to comment on that. First of all, Brian, you're a little modest here. It's not the way I see it. Your role is not only that, because look, I started this project once, in the last December, right? And that's why I was after a conversation with Sam, when we took on this project as a community, I was assigned as a little bit as a project lead on this in this project, and that has practical implication. I'm the owner, one of the owners in GitHub. I was the one briefing Sam, if I was around in Scrum meetings, and I was holding the client meetings and stuff like that. So because even if we try to do this as a community in a collaborative way, there need to be somebody that actually takes on certain responsibilities, like the responsibility of pushing the merge button. And listen, guys, I've taken a lot of heat for merging in pull requests that weren't ready. You know that, right? But it's still, the bug stays with me. If I merge it in, it's my responsibility. There's certain things that you cannot pass on to an entire group. And when I was going away, I and Sam spoke about who will take this responsibility when I'm gone. And Brian pulled in a lot of work and a lot of effort into this project. Staying up all late nights and doing a lot of code reviews, doing a lot of coding and stuff like that. That's why we chose you, Brian, because you were the one that was most suited at the time to do this. And I think you've done a tremendously good job, even though you some people or even you say that you were a little bit too absent and stuff like that. But that's the way it is. This is an open source community. So I think that some things needs to have a role. Somebody needs to take a lead on a project like this. And apart from that, I think a lot of stuff can be dealt with in the method, agile method we use to assign tasks and stuff like that. And it's the code review could be done by a lot of people, but somebody needs to be the one to say, okay, this is enough, or this is good enough, we can merge this in, and that should be one or two, tops two persons. That's my opinion.
Exactly, that's what I mean, and I think it's very important for to make it clear to everybody, to existing members and to new members, what roles are and who those people are, because with new people I had to explain, well, there is Brian, he's such and such, he's doing this job, so you guys wait for his feedback, and then this is what happens to your pull request. So again, summarizing this. What I'm suggesting that we decide which roles we need. The very minimum. We ask people if they're happy to take it. We announce it. We make it clear to others what that role is and who is doing that job.
Okay, I'm waiting for suggestions. What roles are we talking about that we should need in practical terms?
Right.
Yeah.
For ongoing tasks, the first role that I see is the maintaining documentation. I think it would be a really good idea for somebody to take a lead on that, for to collect all the feedback, to put it on paper, to ask people if they like it or they don't like it, to talk to new members and stuff like that. And I'm quite happy to try that, see how that goes, and hand it over to somebody else when I get tired, or if somebody likes it. The other role is the pressing the merge button. Everybody in the project should know who that guy is, who presses the merge button. That's the second role. I think it's very important to have a third role. I think it's very important to have is somebody who looks after the consistency of user interface. I know that you're saying, Thomas, we all should sort of not step away from what we have and so on. But judging by myself, I'm not very good at that. I do things in user interface. And I really would like to have one guy I always go and ask, so what do you think about it? At the moment it's Brian, and that's what I do. I ask him, and I think it would be a good idea for others to know, who's the guy to consult. Those are the minimum roles I think would be useful. Code review, documentation, and UI.
But are you talking about documentation for the project or documentation for the Agile Ventures community? Because it's different.
I'm talking about for the project.
For the project.
Yeah, so basically somebody who looks after the website one documentation, and for other projects, it's other people who are looking for that.
But even in enterprise project with Scrum that we have only one role, like technical lead, who do that, not more, because many roles in Scrum is really hard thing to do. I don't think we really need someone to documentation, for example, UI.
Can you just by the way, Yaro, can you just give me some examples of website one specific documentations that need to be maintained?
Yeah, for example, we have a bunch of documents now on website one, which is in different sections, and some of it really needs some editing and collecting some feedback. Should we have it like this, or should we have it some other way? At the moment, anybody can edit it. Personally, I don't think that's a good idea, because everybody has his own opinion how it should be.
All right. First of all, I'm up for assigning a role as an editor, to keep things in place. That's one thing. But I will, and I know that for a fact that we discussed this with Sam before, and unless he's changed his mind, this is what goes. We will not impose any restrictions on document access. We've spoken about this before. I know that there are different meaning about that, but again, we are building this community on talented and motivated people who should be trusted. And if they're not, if they don't live up to the trust, then they are, they're gonna drift away from this community. We want to trust people, and that's why we want to keep everything as open as possible. So I will always vote against any restrictions in document access. But having said that, I'm up for having a person, and if you want to take on that role, Yaro, it would be wonderful, as an editor. It means that, not everybody has English as their native language here, so somebody makes mistakes, somebody, write some content that perhaps contradict other content in what we, in some other document. So I would like to have a person. I would think it's a good idea, somebody who overviews stuff, have a kind of, holistic view of everything, all documents that are being created. But not only, I wouldn't like to have somebody assigned as a sole, author of documentation. But as an editor, yes.
Yeah, as a code review, but for documents, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. And as I said, myself, I don't know exactly how. Well, if we think that's a good idea, then the next step is to decide, is to describe that role, what the guy is responsible for, and I'm happy to try. I don't know how this works out. How I think it's worth trying, because at the moment we have a lot of stuff that needs to be done, and everybody knows that it needs to be done, but it's not getting done.
I say one of the decisions tonight could be, Yaro, write that up, create a document, describing that role, and let's return to this in the next, meeting, perhaps a retrospective meeting, or some of the planning meeting we are planning to host. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. That will be then about who's merging stuff in. This is settled. There shouldn't be any questions about that. Brian can do it. I can do it, and also Sam can do it. We are the leads on this project. And again, as I said before, my take on that is it needs to be restricted to a small amount of people that can take responsibility for a thing like that, because having ownership of GitHub repositories automatically gives you right to push thing out to production, and that needs to be, even though we trust people a lot, we need to restrict that because it's live software, so unless you guys have a different opinion on this, I think we should stick to that.
No, I agree.
Is like, from my point of view, I don't mind at all whoever takes that job or has that role. For me, and I think for some other people, it's important to be clear again what the role is. So okay, one of the roles is pressing the button, but also the guy is making a decision whether the code is good enough or not good enough. And I think that has to be very clear. What people should expect. Why their pull request got turned down, or why it got merged.
Okay.
Because what I mean is, it took me a while to understand what gets merged and what doesn't. And for new members, I think it's very difficult to understand, what's good, what isn't.
All right. I don't know. I can't. I don't have any opinion on that, because we were pretty straightforward before I left about this. Okay. Let me say it like this. I spent some time reviewing all the discussions you guys had on GitHub. The code review discussions, right? And I get a feeling that you guys discuss a lot more than we used to do before, and I think it's partially good, but I also think that it slows down the process, and working software. This is what it's all about. Perhaps it could make some of the stuff needs to be reviewed, of course, with the logic of the models and everything, but perhaps if if deploying to a faster deployment to the development server could make it easier just to try, is this actually working, is there any flaws in the software itself, and then improving the code in the next iteration. Perhaps we should strive after for getting stuff out and deployed, and make them better in the next sprint, perhaps. I don't know.
I've only done one pull request, and I thought it was quite intuitive and straightforward. My code wasn't up to scratch. I was told where it needed improving, and I had to improve it. I had to learn how to git rebase. I couldn't do that. Yaro showed me. I learned a lot of skills. I thought it was very helpful.
Okay, but Yaro, you mentioned that people are a little, there are some questions of what is being merged and what is not. Any specific situations, or?
Well, difficult to recall off the top of my head because the pull requests from new members were, quite short, and there were a lot of us around to help around. No, I can't.
Okay, all right.
Not off the top of my head just right now.
Brian, any opinions?
No, I don't really have anything to say about that.
I think, maybe just a few lines saying what the guy merging the button does. He checks for this, and he makes sure that this is this.
Okay, Brian, you've done a lot of code review. What do you check for when you review a pull request?
Well, I'm just gonna try and imagine what effect this merging will have with the rest of the project. Whether or not this is, what are we just introducing technical depth into the project, or And also another thing I'm looking for is, will it be difficult for somebody else to understand when they look at it? Okay. So that's kind of hard, which is why I want to get more people involved, because that's kind of hard for me, because I understand the code quite well, and I understand the whole project. I'd like to have new members look at it and then see, is this, piece of code confusing? Whether or not when a new person comes in and looks at this, a part of
but just for the sake of argument,
okay.
This is not a position I'm taking, but just for the sake, does it matter if the code is confusing, if the tests are passing, and if it's well tested and the tests are passing? What does it matter if the code is like a spaghetti code or whatever?
Yes, well, I think it does matter. That's quite important, because it makes it a lot harder to roll new people on when they have to understand this spaghetti code.
Okay.
That's why I want tests to pass. I want code to be clean and clear. Okay,
gotcha. Because that's what I kind of wanted to hear. Because for me, and I'm not an expert, but I will try to be. No, but for me, tests. I mean, is the I would look for how comprehensive are the tests for this pull request, and is everything tested? And are they passing? And is everything working? Are they breaking anything else? So that's one way to we should look for that to start with, right? And then secondly, is the code clean enough, to pass? But I mean, that's the in the TDD method. Workflow is like you get a red test, then you pass the test. It doesn't really matter how you do it, and the refactoring part comes after that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
I would like to say what's my opinion about this. My point of view is that being here from, like I got referred from CS 169, and I'm really here to just as well as help the community learn the best practices to code and so on. And I would like to get a good knowledge of the structure of the code and get to know how not to make spaghetti codes. And I would like to do it as well as in the pair programming sessions. Also from the reviewer that's accepting the pull request. Although I don't have any pull requests accepted yet, I would appreciate such a point saying that your code is smelly here, and you should fix it. But that would be great. And as far as it's explained well, so I could understand it and correct myself, I would be glad to do it.
Brian, is there, now I can summarize it, what my question was. Is there any chance that you can sort of, put down a few lines, what are the major points for you as a code reviewer, so people know what to aim for? I know that you mentioned it now, but could you just write it down maybe at some time?
Yeah, sure. If you want it all in writing, I can send it to you over Slack.
Yeah, it would be great. I think, then everybody knows. This is our most experienced guy who's doing the code review, and he is looking for this. And, I think that would be really good for me.
Okay.
Another thing, and one thing that I look for when I do this together with Brian is this done in a collaborative way, which means pair programming, and also is it done test driven. So that's why we kind of like to review the recordings and things like that. So we can see if because we try to work in the test driven and behavior driven way, right? So once the code is submitted, we can't really see that unless we go over each commit itself, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, although that's something that's quite difficult to detect in a pull request, other than the test coverage.
Yeah.
So I prefer that's done, through the pair programming session, not at the code review stage.
Yeah, and that's why that's my point exactly. Code review is a great thing, and it's whether we should merge or not merging. Absolutely.
Yep.
But pair programming is the most important thing. It's and recorded. Everything should be recorded so we can we can fall back on it if we're looking for answers, and other members can watch them in order to learn something. If you oh shit, I see that Yaro and Brian worked on this whatever integration. Let's watch this, and we shouldn't underestimate that. The recorded session are very useful, even if they are never watched again. Just the fact that they are there gives people at least a fair chance to review what has been done and learn something from it. So I strongly encourage you guys, first of all, to pair program, but also if you work alone. Sam does that all the time. He records his lone session as well as the one where he has students or other AV members in him. So record as much as possible.
That brings us to another point. I was thinking a lot during the discussions with Brian in particular. I think pair programming is great. I think TDD in pair programming, that's what I like most. If you stay strictly to the TDD cycle in pair programming. But another thing, I quite like solo programming on certain things, and I'm pretty sure there are quite a few people out there who like solo programming as well. I think it would be a really good idea, not just scare those people away by saying, guys, we only do pair programming, we don't like solo programming. I think we should allow solo programming in some way, but at the same time we should, we should understand the fallbacks of solo programming, and we should deal with them. So, for example, we could say that, guys, if you really want to solo programming, do that, but your pull request should be like not longer than this, and things like that. So we sort of push people into pair programming, but at the same time give them a chance to do solo programming, and maybe restrict some things. So so we don't have too much disadvantages of solo programming.
Yes. Yes. All right. I don't know how to respond to that. Absolutely, solo programming is okay. In many. I mean, everything we do could be done solo as well. The thing is that, again, I don't see this as a scary thing. I think pair programming is for many people, if you do it right, it's far more effective and far more. I mean, you learn more and you produce better code. There are many things that point towards that the quality of the code produced in pair programming sessions are superior to solo programming. But mainly, it's this. We built this community on pair programming. This as a general idea. So I would say that's the that's the general rule, but exceptions to I mean every rule has its exceptions. But I would say that the core values we wanna communicate to new members or to our existing members is that we do we work with agile methods, we do test-driven development, we do it in pairs, remotely as a distributed team. This is what we stand for.
Well, Thomas, I would say that sadly, for some of us at least, it's an unfortunate practicality that pair programming is not always feasible. Basically, the only times, or frequently, I guess, I find that the only times that I can code, I can't speak, for example, for whatever reasons. Either I'm at work in a shared office, or I'm at home with my two daughters sleeping. So, as much as I would love to do pairing, we have to accept, I think, that for the kind of team that we have, it is not possible 100% to do that. So if there are allowances for solo programming, I think, again, that just wouldn't discourage people from coming in.
No, I understand that. Although I still think, pair programming with voice is, I mean, come on, we're getting spoiled here. Just to 5, 6, 7 years ago, there was no such thing as video conferencing over internet, or at least it was, very expensive. So, but yeah, I mean, if we can't use our voice, let's chat. I mean, things are possible to do, and if you see the benefits of pair programming, you're gonna get out of your way to do that. But I understand the implications, of course, and I'm not saying no to anything. But I'm just saying that again, this community is built upon those core values, and this is what we want to do. And we had this we had this discussion about, for instance, if I spoke to Brian about it, and then also Sam and I discussed this. If we see that some pull requests, and to address the question that Yara asked, what are we looking for in pull requests? One of the things I'm looking for is ping-ponging. If I see, several hundred lines of code produced by one single person, and a lot of commits by one single person, I'm saying, this is cool. I guess this is a great solution, but it's not done the way we want it to be done. And that's being in a collaborative way with every other commit made somebody else. I can see that there are 2, 3, 4 contributors to this pull request. That's what makes me tick, for instance. So solo programming, sure, but try to involve a lot of people into that. If you work on a story, do some solo programming. If you can't, for instance, as you say, you have those practical things that stop you from talking, for instance. But ping it over to somebody else and wait for the next, until the next day, for perhaps somebody else can do, contribute with a few lines of code, and to be a part of the solution. Because that's, so we still end up with a lot of eyes on the code before the pull request is done. Because then the process of reviewing the pull request and finally merging it in will be shortened if there are more contributors to start with.
That's a great idea. People used to play chess over mail, like conventional mail. That's another thing that we should try. Maybe some people who can't pair online, maybe we can pair offline, sending commits to each other and discussing by email or chat. I never tried it, but maybe, maybe that's a way.
Yeah. I'd like to say something else to that, and it's something I've discussed with you, Yaro. We had this discussion before, is that I'd like for there to be more pairing on features that are large. I mean, small little chores, I don't mind. You can do it solo if you want, because, it's small, updating a little, refactoring specs, that's fine. But if you're introducing a new feature, a new, something new, like, Hangouts, Scrums, all that, it would be nice if you've been pairing so you get more eyes. You see that, are you implementing this correctly? So it doesn't all fall into the code reviewer when you submit that pull request. So I'd say that if you are working on a story that's introducing a big feature, try to pair on it. if you want to work solo, that's fine, but try and limit yourself to smaller refactoring stories.
Or as you suggested, you called it offline
Oh,
pairing.
yes,
So
of course.
ping pong as a chess player. Yeah, of course.
I think that's a good alternative. That's a good alternative to have. We will drag people as much as we can into pair programming sessions, but at the same time, we leave them this option.
Yeah.
And that's how people do the Linux kernel, right, over the conference chat.
Yeah. We will, when we expand the algorithm for calculating karma points, we will, for instance, use the amount of pair programming sessions and the participant, being a participant in a PP session as a way to add points to people. If that's ever going to be important for somebody, that's something we want to encourage. Introducing. That's why I think being a part of this Agile Ventures support channel on Slack, it's important, because you are giving something to the community, and pair programming is also giving something to community by introducing new members, teaching them how to code. Code review is great, but it's nothing. If you're really good at something, Yarrow or Brian or Craig or whoever, and you have a new member with you on in a pair programming session, and you let him drive a little, even though you know the answer to the problem, but you let him drive, let him come up with a solution. And sometimes if he makes a mistake, you can just point him into the right direction. That's what growing is all about, and you grow as a person because you teach somebody how to do things, and he grows because he learned from a guy that is a kind of an expert in that particular area. So it's very important for me. So again, one of the things I'm looking for in a pull request, if we're gonna evaluate the effort that you guys put in, is has it been pair programmed on, and has it been done in a according to the values of Agile Ventures.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And another thing is, I've spoken a lot about this crowdsourced learning, and it's a very important concept for me, and should it is one of the values that we build this community on. It's like we are not experts and newbies. We are all people in this community, and there are people that are good on certain things and bad on others, or not as good as the next guy. But we can all learn something from each other. I can learn a lot from you, Yaro, and a lot from all the new members. And so I don't want to divide this community into experts or senior staff or whatever. Even if out of practical reasons, it's reasonable to do it sometimes. But I'm here to learn. I'm here to grow as a person on many levels, not only technical level, just to learn to write better code. I want to learn how to interact with people and how to collaborate with them, how to lead them sometimes. So that's my reasons why I'm here, and I know that I'm not a perfect person, and I know that I have I believe in lifelong learning. And that's what that's another value that I want to communicate to other members, that we're all here as a learning experience continuously, So that's why pair programming is the meeting, the interpersonal communication, and to meet other people is far superior to any other methods of development or creative work, and that's why it's much better than for instance code review, which is also good, but it's not as good as working together in a live session. And John is here. How you doing, John?
Two Johns, in fact.
Oh yeah, two Johns. Yeah.
Hello.
In fact,
It's never stopping programming.
Yeah, I'm good too. Hello.
Hello.
Cool, Johnny Mo and Johnny E. In fact, John E. So you're a new member yourself. Do you mind giving us some feedback on the entire process when you joined? Was it easy for you to get started? Do you understand what exactly you had to do to get involved?
Yeah. I mean, technically, it's challenging just to get up to speed with the code base. It's like I felt at first like I knew enough to be dangerous and mess things up more than I could actually contribute initially. As far as, but yeah, I mean, that just takes time, and I'm feeling more comfortable. And as far as the pair programming, often I find there aren't other people online and available when I'm available to do the work. So I like this idea of kind of doing some work and then having a partner who will be able to grab my submissions and do some work, and then that I could grab theirs. So yeah, even if it's not in real time, that's good.
Okay, could we like kind of all of us here at least make that as a priority? So let's agree upon that. Real life pair programming is the way we do it. If not possible, we do this offline pair programming instead, and solo programming. Really, if there's no other way to get the job done.
And if the story is small enough.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I agree.
Yep.
Completely.
Yep.
I also want to say I've been very pleased at how welcoming everyone's been and how competent they've been. Been getting really good feedback on the pull requests and in the pair programming sessions I've done. So thank you all.
Nice to hear. That's why we're here. Well, you haven't met me. I'm the asshole around here. Okay, hey, I was expecting like a no or something, but yeah, sure. Well,
well, you admitted it yourself.
I was just throwing it out, I thought somebody would pick that up, but no. Okay, thanks. Come on. Okay, so what else? Let's talk about a little bit. We've been on it for a while now, but let's talk about strategy, perhaps. I mean, we need to develop this. I mean, we need to get this application, this website one, the agileventures.org, to be more useful for our users, because the way it is today, that's my theory at least. People are signing up, they use it to start scrums. Some of us do it. They use the site to start hangouts and start scrums, but there's not much other action going on the website. And we recently introduced some stories. Me and Yaro and Brian and some other guys spoke about this. For instance, this dashboard, this public dashboard, and also a private dashboard. To get this application more useful for logged in users, for instance. And also, I have a feeling that we need to rethink the way we present different projects. There is no clear structure, and either we should do it better for us that create new documents, but also perhaps we need to, I don't know, rethink the way we present and show documents and show project information. I don't know. I don't think it's very useful right now. So, any ideas you guys have in order, to make this application more, to add some value for our users? Just let's talk about it.
Thomas, this has been bothering me, for a long time and very much. I think before we even start thinking about ways of improving whatever, we have to be very clear about what exactly we're trying to achieve. What goal we're trying to reach in the short term, the midterm. Okay, at least in the short term and the midterm. And to me, after being in the project for so long, it's unclear And I think it's very important to make it clear for everybody. So before anybody thinks of suggesting an idea, changing something, refactoring something, he thinks, does this go in line with the current goals? Is this what I should be devoting my time on?
Yeah. Okay. Because see, for me, it's the mission. We had two goals with this in this project. First, the first goal, and that was achieved in the first 2 or 3 weeks of this project. That was to deliver a better solution than the Google site solution that Sam was using before. I think it was fairly easy to do that because that sucked really bad. So that's why we created the model for projects. We created documents. We created the what you see is what you get editor, rich text editor for documents and stuff like that. You all guys remember that the ones that all of you that were in the project from the beginning. But then we formulated another goal, and the goal is it's a very loosely put perhaps, but we want to create a platform for collaborative software development and learning. We want to learn together. So we need a place where we can have information about projects. We need to hold documentation. We need to gather all the recordings of scrums. I mean, we need to administer scrums, and we do that today. But we need to show off the old recordings, and we do that today as well. And so we want to build a tool for people who are members of this community to be able to have a one-stop for information about all the aspects of Agile Ventures, right? So we will not achieve that because we for instance, we are so heavily invested into Slack right now. So we will never have online chat on our site, right? Because it's not possible right now, unless we create an interface, a Slack interface that we can use on agileVentures.org. But whatever. But so everything we want to develop. Everything we want to develop should move us toward that goal. Is this a place that makes working on our project as easy as possible? So that's the overall goal, I think.
Okay. I think the next step would be to have a list of most needed features for that platform to be the platform we want. So then we know what features we should work on now.
Well, for me, again, I've said this before a few months ago. The most important thing, apart from everything else that we've done, is to help people find each other, and find interesting things to work on. So, that's the pair programming schedule, or in any form, just to hook up with people. That's why we introduced those time zone information, the skills, stuff that what you work on, what interests you, so we can build this search interface, or so whom should I contact in order to find some useful, interesting stuff to do. So for me, that should be the next big step to work to find ways to match those 500 people that are members today with each other. So Thomas lives in Sweden, so he should pair with some, preferably with some people from Finland, Norway, Germany, whatever, so that are in his time zone, right? I mean, John here, John M. lives in New York, and so it's easier for him to pair on with people from his own time zone. But what if he doesn't care about that? Okay, he instead wants to pair with somebody that is interested in AngularJS, right? So, and here he has Brian, for instance, from England, not at all in his time zone, but he's interested in the same things, right? So can we find some automated way, or some way to help them find each other without actually knowing each other, talking to each other, right? So can we ease that process of them hooking up? And I think that's a very important thing for us to have a go at.
Okay, okay.
Slack mitigates a lot of this, but I think also knowing where to go for what. So it's difficult to know whether you should be looking at Pivotal Tracker or whether the wiki documentation on GitHub's right, or there's so many different places that information can be. It's sometimes difficult when you're starting a project and trying to set up your initial development environment to work out all that stuff.
Yeah. Absolutely, and we should unify that as well. I mean, and I know we had this discussion. Should we use GitHub wiki pages or not? And we have different takes on that. But it doesn't. For me, it's not that. Once you're in the project, once you speak to people, they can point you toward right information. The community support that we spoke of before. That's the these obstacles are something that you can overcome by just talking to people. What I'm talking about right now is that first step. For instance, let's say we grow as a community. We don't have like 10 projects of which only 3 are really active, but we do have like 100 projects, right? And a few thousand members. So in order, let's say you finish a project, you're done with some stories, or you want to go and do something else, and you want to find new people. What I'm talking about, just word of mouth will not be good enough. We need a technical an interface to some sort of a search engine to find new people, find new interesting tasks, and get that, overcome the first obstacle of finding things. Then you join that Scrum, and then everything will start falling into place. But the scheduling and mechanism is very important for us.
I agree with what you're saying, Thomas, but I think that is thinking too far ahead into the future. Right now, as it stands, I think we can get more value by improving the website itself. Like, we're getting a lot of feedback that the project description isn't quite up to scratch. Perhaps we should start focusing on, updating the project page to be more user-friendly, so that, when new users come in, they know what to do after looking at those pages.
I agree, and I'm first one to say that there's a lot of stuff that needs to be, redesigned, and I think that's where we should put, the resources we have right now. But if you ask me, and I thought that was the question, where should we go from now? I think that this is the direction we need to take, and also I would say, if we had the resources today, I would split them evenly. Redesign what we have and think, ahead as well, parallel, because we will not be able to grow as a community if we don't address those issues as soon as possible. Because I mean, website 1 is one project. We are like 9 or 10 developers, but soon enough, already today there isn't enough stories for all developers to work on. We need to pull in new projects. Like local support is very mature, as far as I understand. I think there's a lot of, I don't know, John, is there a lot of action in local support right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've been missing for months, so I have no idea. Okay,
sorry.
Well, David, Paul, and Maren are working sort of continuously on it, so there is some action. Yeah.
Yeah, but if we want to activate at least another 10% of the 500 people we have as members, then that means another 50 developers, and we should have more projects for them to work on, for instance, right?
But
and
Thomas,
then those things will come in, will be needed to find good pairing partners and
we also have Osra project, for example, and I don't know how pair programming help Osra project to grow. We need to think about how can we maintain this project, how we can help them to grow.
Yeah,
with new projects. Yeah.
I think another issue is we don't have, I mean, perhaps for the new members, they don't know what other projects are alive and kicking. What do you guys think? Because I know lots of people come into website 1. That's seems to be the first step that most new people take. But did you know that there are other projects, and people are looking for developers to work with them?
Yeah, I mean, pair programming helped them a lot. I was, me and Brian and Motassim was the ones that get that project off the ground, right? We made the first commits and stuff. I think.
Yeah. No, I think Motassim is having trouble finding pairing partners.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been home for a week, so don't blame me. So.
Guys, I think if we sort of to structure our goals, it's if we're talking about the learning platform, then it's you need people to learn with, you need information to read, and you need tools that will help you to work and learn, and you need something to apply your efforts to, like projects. So we have 4 things that we need to provide to our members, and we need to focus on providing those things as easily as possible: people, tools, information, and projects. And that's it. That's it.
We use projects in order to find stuff to learn, because we solve problems. We encounter problems. We don't know how to solve them, and we learn how to solve them.
Are we looking at something as simple as a tagging system here with search, or something more complicated?
Well, I mean, if it's for people, then it's something more complicated because it's time zones, skills, and stuff. If it's for projects, then it's easier. If it's information, it's just a matter of structuring our documents and making us searchable, just making it easy to find the right documents. So it's different tasks. And I agree with Brian and Thomas here. We need to develop those things evenly. We need to focus on a tool for finding people, and we need to work on the current stuff that we have, and that is the documents, the information we have, and the projects we have.
Yeah, yeah. I would like to have some sort of an, artificial intelligence. I can ask, I would like to work on, new whatever. Who should I turn to? And the computer, the software should just give me suggestions like, there's a 99% match of somebody interested in the same things as you, and he lives next door. So give him a buzz. So we should be able to build a search like this now.
As a matter of fact, the next best thing, which I would like to suggest, is we should have some way of ranking projects, ranking users. This would be a great, if you're new to the project, new to Agile Ventures. This seems to be the #1 project where most new members roll in. So you might want to try this out or things like that. Just a way to recommend projects, because right now it's unsorted. We have a list of projects in no meaningful order.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
there's not many, but
you get a message on the screen. Hey, there seems to be a lot of action in website 1, and you filled out your profile, and it seems like you could, because he says Rails, for instance, as a skill, and it's a Rails project. So why don't you pop over to Brian and Thomas, ask them if there's anything you can do?
Well, actually, we don't need that kind of intelligence. Just putting them on Slack and just having them in the website 1 channel, you can tell there's lots of activity. But I'd like some way to be, for there to be some way that website 1 would appear at when you get to the list of projects, website 1 is the one that stands out, or local support. Do you know what I mean? Instead of what do you have now? Auto graders on top?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, you should use some kind of green light, or I don't know, red light for newbies, for example. Green light, it's for newbies, so we can easily choose that project, and maybe another for saying how much activity is in project, something like that. I don't know. So we can easily choose the project that we want to. For newbies, I think it's very important, because on Scrums, I usually repeat that I'm going through project and saying that website 1 projects, local support, and author, for example, and talking about project good for novice or not, something like that. Maybe we should use indicators to do it. CG.
I agree, Pavel. I think it's a lot more important not to show that the project is active or not active, is to show what, is to make it easy for people to choose a project. I don't really see a point of ranking projects. I mean, what's the point of that? We're not competing with each other.
No, it's not
No,
that.
no, it's not ranking. It's more of is there action going on? Is there?
Yeah.
It's like
more...
as we discussed, karma points for projects. It's
But you mean if nobody goes to the project, then there will never be action. Everybody goes into website 1 because the most action is there. Nobody goes to integrators.
But then that's a good place to get started because there's lots of people there. You can get lots of help. If you can, if you want to get started on integrators, that's a little bit harder because I'm not sure Sam's away. Nobody's working on it. So it's just a good way, for when new people come in, they can see which project's most active, and maybe that's a good starting point. Because that's what website 1 is. It's like a starting point for all the new members.
Well, also, I mean, Autograders is a great project for people who wants to learn Ruby, right? If I'm not mistaken. Haven't you been working on that project, Yaro, for a while?
I have, for quite a long time, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, not everybody needs to start with website 1. For God's sake, please don't.
No.
I mean, but so and OCRA is another project that needs a lot of developers. But yes, it is easier because there's a lot of action going on here, and it's a high profile, and it's about the website for the community and stuff like that. So yeah, but the thing is that it is a challenge to get a team of developers into a project. I remember we started out with the Codelia project, and we got a core of a hardcore team of developers working on it. But then it's a leadership issue as well. It kind of fell apart, and we need to reboot that project soon enough. But so it depends a little bit on who's taking a lead in the project, how you do things, if there's interesting tasks involved, and for some reason website 1 took off and Codelia didn't. So
we need to get people excited. That's the core point.
Yeah, definitely. So, but it's a combination of various things. It's interesting tasks. It's a leadership thing. It's how what the stakeholders, who the stakeholders are. I mean, local support has been a very active project for a very long time. Run by the book by Sam. So there's a lot of stuff, and I would like to see new projects being introduced by members and growing. That would be very interesting, and I always try to give a helping hand if there's somebody that want to introduce a new project idea. So feel free to start your own projects, for God's sake. That's what we're all about, and communicate and talk to people about them, and perhaps that's how we can get even more of all the members we have signed up into Agile Ventures to actually contribute with their time and code and stuff.
By the way, guys, for a question for all of you who have joined lately, did you get that idea that you can start a project, your own project?
Yeah, that was clear to me. It was also clear that I could join any other project that existed. I just chose website 1 because it was the top of the list and I'm lazy.
Yeah, I saw that too. Thomas, are there any statistics as to people who have come on board, how many people we've got who are still contributing and stuff like that, to know how successful we have been?
That's exactly what we are working on right now, and that info is there. It's available. It's not available, in one place. But if you have a look at GitHub, you can click the contributors. No, yeah, we have 27 contributors to website 1, and if you click that, you can see that Brian has made a shitloads of commits, and there is one guy called Dima. He made 1 commit. So you can see that in the statistics page. And what we're going to try to do now, that's the general idea with the dashboard we were talking about, is to aggregate all this information and present it on our website for each individual project, but also for the community in itself. We have I don't know. I think we have 14 repositories under Agile Ventures, and there's work going on some of them. So we want to put everything together and present it in a nice way for people to see. But that's one idea. Perhaps we should show that information on a project level. So website 1 is active and another project is less active or whatever. I don't know if that suits any purpose for us, but that could be done easily.
Do we have view counts on the website?
Yes, we do, from Google Analytics. And for the last month we had 1,057 users, unique users, showing, and we had the 9,650 page views. And you can access that. Well, you cannot access that because I have to give you a permission, but you can always ask me or Yaro or Brian, or I can give you permission if it's very important for you.
No, I just thought it might help to measure how.
That's also some information we will display on this dashboard idea we had, right, Yaro?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, it's all kind of in its birth. But yeah, guys, please join the discussion on website 1, and everybody, I have put a link for editing the mockup online. Please feel free to edit and add your ideas.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So back to my point of bringing people together with some sort of a search tool or something. Well, I know that we spoke about different solutions about pair programming session schedule before, like a calendar or something like that. And I think I remember there were some guys that showed us a solution that they were developing. Do you guys remember? But they didn't want to be a part of Agile Ventures because they want to charge for it.
Yeah, it was a prior, what do you call that? Proprietary implementation, not open source. Yeah, I remember that. Just why
is there any way to see what it was?
I can't remember. They shared a link to this site.
It's so long time ago, and it was a really shitty solution they presented.
Oh, let's just forget about that then.
Yeah, pardon my French, but it was really lousy.
Thomas? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's the part of the project that interested me when I came in, was trying to find a way to pair people up nicely. And I think, after reflecting on several solutions and talking with the guys, what I decided on is if there's just a way for people to say, I want to pair on this project at, I'll be available in 30 minutes, I'll be available for the next 2 hours, boom, or just, I want to start a pair programming session right now with anybody available. And if we have a table listing, which Yaro has been working on as well, kind of with the live Hangouts page, which looks really nice. And I've been working on this pending Hangouts page. But if we have a way for them to see which ones people want to work on and which ones people are working on, then they can join up. And I think that's good enough, personally.
What do you guys think?
I think that would be amazing. To see which Hangouts are live for pair programming at any given moment.
And that's taken care of by Yaro. I haven't seen your pull request implemented yet. Do you have a demo someplace I can log in and see? Or?
Yeah. I can post you a link. It's on my Heroku instance. Just give me a second. But
And
yeah, sort of the base for future development, I guess.
And that's what we're seeing here is the ones that have been held and are currently in session, or
Yeah, there is a toggle at the top, the button show all live, which basically filters between all hangouts that have been held and just live hangouts.
okay.
Right. Yarrow and I worked the other day a little bit on a spike to just kind of prove the concept that we could add in pending hangouts as well, or pending events.
Pending mean the ones in the future, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Because that would be that's one way to, that's a step forward, of course. Yeah. This looks good. Yeah. Well, not very Yarrow, but okay. All right. And can you get this to work? I mean, is this?
Well, what do you mean?
I mean, is this gonna? Are you pulling this information from the API, or are you storing everything locally, or?
Oh no, the concept is still the same. A user starts a hangout, and when he clicks the button, a bunch of data gets passed to the Hangout application. The Hangout application reports back to website 1, passing that data back, and it gets stored in a Hangout model on website 1.
Okay.
And this is just a view which displays the model.
Okay.
But also the Hangout application reports back every 5 minutes, updating the participants in the Hangout, and basically, yeah, we can determine whether the Hangout is live. Has reported in the last 5 minutes. If it hasn't, then it's dead now, and it's not, you can't join it anymore, but you can watch the video.
Okay. Cool. Okay, well, so how far from is this a pull request right now, or what's up?
Yeah, I got a bunch of comments from Brian and Sanpredi today. I will deal with it tomorrow morning. And if there is no new stuff coming in, then yeah, that should be done tomorrow.
All right. Okay. Looking forward to it. Looks great. Looks cool. And that's a great leap forward, I think. We have to think about a little bit how to get people into this those views, like the Scrum, for instance, the past Scrums that Marian and Marcelo worked on. I wouldn't use a link, like we have now. Where is it? It's over.
The landing page.
Yeah. I would say perhaps we should have something under events. Like a menu, like current events or past events, or I wouldn't have that on the landing page like we have today. But it's a separate discussion, I guess. We can brainstorm about that in a planning session. What else is it to talk about, guys? It's been a good discussion, I think, so far.
I think we've got
2 hours 45 minutes into the discussion.
I think we've got very valuable feedback from lots of the new members, and I think it gives us something to aim for in the project. So yeah, thank you guys, and thank you, Thomas, for organizing this. It's been really great. Good to see lots of people coming in, and Scrum's full. You don't get lots of that.
Thank you guys. For Saturday, it's quite a big team.
Yeah,
for a weekend.
Yeah. No, but okay. I know that I've noticed that Brian and Yarrow and some other people has written up some of the stories into the Pivotal Tracker as we spoke during the meeting, and I think that's great. Yarrow, I don't know if you've already done it, but could you please set up or whoever can do it, a Slack channel with new member support? I think that's a good name.
Yeah, I can do that, no problem.
Can we agree on the title? New member support, is that okay?
Yeah.
I would suggest a shorter one because then it would not fit into the sidebar. box.
Okay, newbie support. I don't know. I think we need to say that it's a support channel, and we also want to have
Or just
the
new
target
members.
audience.
We can
All
just
right.
say new members, and that will be some place that new members can come and introduce themselves.
All right.
That's a good place, I think.
Let's start with that.
Yeah, we can always rename it. Let's start with new
Yeah.
members.
It's not set in stone.
And another important thing is Yaro, please do write something down about this editor.
I will, sure.
That's a good thing. And we have this retrospective meeting that we agreed upon every fortnight on Tuesdays, right? And we have a continuous planning, meetings devoted to Website 1 each Wednesday and each Saturday at 1800 UTC. That's a good thing, I think. We're going to split up the stories, so we separate the user interface design from any business logic. So that's cool. And we're going to loosen up the developer server a little bit so we can merge stuff in and try to get Sam into accepting. The client meetings should be held on the staging server and then pushed out to production. Right?
Yep.
And a little bit of and also, I don't know, Brian or Yaro or Pavel, if any of you want to take the lead on the that cheat sheet about the values, the core values that we want to communicate to new members, and a little bit like, what sort of a support, what kind of support we usually have to give each new member if they ask for it,
I think Yarov already created this kind of page. Yaro, maybe you can do it.
I could certainly take a lead on it, but it would have to be a collaborative, work. I can start with something, then I will show it to everybody and collect feedback.
Yeah, absolutely, of course.
Yeah. And I can pair with you on it, someday if you want to have a.
Sure.
Absolutely, just give me a shout out.
Okay.
Let me make up the basic structure, and then we can carry on from there.
Yeah. And again, basically, what we want to communicate, we are here to learn. We're here to do test-driven development, produce nice, cool software for people that needs it in an open source way, But we do it in pair programming because that's the best way for us to learn. And if we cannot do it, like Nikita can sometimes, then we try to do it like a test layer, just offline pair programming if it's possible. Okay. And GitHub Pong, please let me see those. Every other commit made by somebody else. That makes me really happy, and please make me happy.
Or even mention in the pull request comments. If you don't have that history, just mention, I've paired with somebody. It gives me a bit of confidence that this has been looked at with more than one pair of eyes.
Does this mean you prefer Git commits as untidy sort of commits? I don't know whether that's the right word, but I mean, it's quite common practice, isn't it, to make lots of commits locally and then tidy them up before you push. Are you saying you'd rather see them warts and all?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. See, I know that you guys have become a bit of a, fascists about clean commits, and rebasing. I think it's great, whatever. But I mean, I think we are right now having a pull request on hold. Let me just have a look. Add users count to members index page.
Oh yeah.
Sly, yeah. I mean, the poor guy, he added 16 lines of code and deleted 5, but he has 1, 2, 3, 4, dirty commits because it's merged. Well, yeah, and we're not pulling that in because of that. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it's important for them to learn how to use Git properly because that is a result from Git not being used properly. For some reason, his history is wrong. Those are not changes that he should have in his pull request. That will probably. I have no idea how they're introduced. It looks like
these are
they don't
empty.
cause-
These commits are completely empty. For some reason, there's a commit message, but there's nothing in there.
That's very interesting.
I think, Thomas, I think, it's always, like at the moment, it's up to Brian whether to merge commit or not to merge. But I think it's a very good idea to make comments anyway, because personally, I learned a lot from discussion.
I know. Don't get me wrong. I understand that, and I respect it. I think it's a great thing. But there, for some reason, I think there are some. We should keep a balance, I mean, those four. Yeah. I don't even know personally. I don't even know how he's supposed to clean that up,
Well, he can ask Yarrow. I'm not sure Yarrow's pretty adept at doing this, cherry picking now. But yeah, I'm just wondering how that could have been introduced.
The thing is that it seems there is like, pushing staging to production on this what is it? The commit 69961DE, for instance. It's something that you've done. And I don't know how that ended up in his history, because this is nothing to do with the develop branch, but for some reason it's there.
What's the pull request number?
493.
Oh, that one.
It closed. I don't see an open pull request number that's 493.
No, it's
a closed one.
Oh, I'm sorry. The pull request we are discussing is 503 right now, but he has a pull request. Commit. It says merge pull request 493 from Agile Venture staging to production.
Yeah.
Yeah, that.
Okay, so he could just go to a clean branch on develop, and from this branch that he has it on, pull these 3 files in. It'll completely throw out the history, and then he's good to go.
It's okay. I will show Sly how to do it tomorrow morning. I have already showed to Craig. It's a lot easier than that. You just do rebase-i head ~6 and just delete those 2 commits, and that's it.
Wow, I don't know what that means, but please document that, because I'd be curious to learn how.
Oh, we have it documented already on website 1. Okay. I'll post the link.
Yeah, even I don't know that.
No?
But
I mean, I know the general idea of rebase, but then you just pulled out like a bunch of options I've never heard of.
Yeah, same.
I just put it into the group chat there.
And that's 6 at the end. What does that mean?
That will present you. That will present you with the last 6 commits, and you can just delete any commits you want out of that.
That's not quite what I had in mind, but yeah, okay, fine.
And how do you delete them afterward? You just what?
No, it's more like you're not deleting them; you're squashing them.
Squashing them. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Right.
No. You're actually deleting them.
Oh,
You're taking them out. You can squash them, but you can just. You're presented with a text editor that shows you 6 lines in your commits. If you just delete 2 lines, that's it. Those commits will go.
Right.
Okay.
But list them and you can.
All right. I understand.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing is here that if you wait a second now, because if you open commit whatever that we are talking about here in this particular one, 503, if you go to the 4 that we consider being dirty, and you open one of them, they are actually containing certain, there are some changes made. For instance, the 493 added acts as votable. That seems like a long time ago, but it does. So if you there's some vagrant file info and some application.js.
Okay.
So I have encountered this a couple of times. I've seen it. I haven't encountered it myself. I've seen it with a couple of guys, and every time it was from not doing the merge or rebase properly.
I think. I think I might have made this same error, and the only thing I can think that I did wrong is not change back to develop when I did my git pull before I did the rebase. So I pulled develop straight into my branch and then did a rebase in that branch.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is an issue with them starting developing on the master branch, because these commits should never be present in develop. In fact, this
Or
by any
they
chance
branched
maybe
off from a master where they created.
yeah, they branched off from master rather than develop, because these commits should not be present on develop.
I mean,
anyway,
I think that when we introduced this rebase thing, because we used to just pull and merge and blah blah,
yeah,
and I understand the positive thing of cleaning up the commit history, but it introduces a level of complexity in using git commands that's especially new members perhaps shouldn't be facing to start with. I'm not completely convinced. It feels like it creates more issues than it actually fixes. I don't know.
Well, I totally agree. I don't mind if they use a rebase or a merge, whatever. It's just that I don't. These few commits shouldn't be there.
It shouldn't,
in my opinion. Yeah.
So basically we could close this one and ask him to reintroduce his commits, or
Well, yeah. Whatever approach he takes, close this and open a new one with branching off from develop, or do a rebase, as long as he gets rid of those few little bits in there. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah. Okay. But let's talk to him.
Yeah. I mean, just maybe me just being picky about the history, but
no, but we shouldn't.
Yeah,
we shouldn't be introducing code that is already there. I mean, we shouldn't be merging code that should already be in place. And I don't understand why they are there to start with.
Well, I mean, using Git properly is a very, very important skill.
Absolutely.
Yep. So I think that's also part of the learning process.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Anyhow, again, we drifted off. That's the Agile Venture sickness. We tend to
yes.
Anyways, again, I have to say that I'm mighty impressed with all the stuff that has been done, and Yaro, a big compliment to you and Sampriti for all the Slack integrations and all the Hangout integrations. I think it's wonderful. A lot of added value to this application. So let's move forward, and I will try to get this, the sprint thing, the whole planning back into good order, good standing, so we can pick up the pace and track the velocity of this project, and continuously improving the way we do things, and introduce new members. I know that this is a very popular project for people to start working on, so I think I welcome every initiative to make the introduction as smooth as possible for people. I'm very I'm motivated to do a good job, and I am very glad that there's a motivated developer team in this project. I'm happy. So thanks again, and yeah, good night. No, but if there's nothing else, let's go to sleep. It's getting late here.
Yeah, I completely agree. I haven't eaten dinner yet. Put that
just
off.
One little point, Brian. Just one little point about Thomas's comment on that. Too many comments on pull requests block pull requests. I think it's a good idea just to add a little note like this is a comment, but it's not a blocker.
Mm-hmm.
You do that. I mean, you do that quite often. Maybe we should put a sign or something like this is just a comment. This is not a blocking issue.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I do
Okay.
that sometimes. Yeah,
All
but
right.
I'll be more explicit next time.
For new
But
members, I mean, I
yeah.
usually can pick up when you really mean things or you're just suggesting, but the new guys, you know, they don't get overwhelmed.
Sure.
Once we at the style, issue, I would like you to use a more, especially for new members, more vivid language. So please consider adding this and that instead of, switch to, sometimes you
Yeah.
guys are very
I
short
know.
in your comments, and I understand that. Yeah, I respect that. And for if you've been around for a long time, you see past that lingo. But for new members, perhaps it could be a little intimidating. So please be a little more. Consider using a better syntax, or have you considered this and that solution or something? Don't be too strict.
I didn't
Yeah,
mind
but-
any of all the comments I got. I must say were brilliant. I didn't mind it being short and sweet sometimes. So.
It's like, oh, no, for fuck's sake, like, yeah, don't stop.
Yeah, actually, pretty please with sugar on top. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hit this red button that says stop broadcast now, and live long and prosper, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.
All right.